All right, here we go. So I've already kind of looked at the Dow here, but if we go to the monthly, we've completely rebalanced November. We have no displacement to the upside. On the weekly, we are still respecting this weekly inefficiency. The last 2 weeks, with fair value gaps on the downside, we did not displace below this fully. But if you just go off of this candle we have, and then on the daily, yeah, we got this respecting the lower end fair value gaps still, and we got this retail support resistance area, which I think we could soup this for the next leg up, and that would make a lot of sense. We don't have SMT so far that I've seen. I haven't really looked yet, but on any of the pairs, so yeah, can't really get super biased long yet. Though on the 4 hour we do have this shift here, but it's only here, and we've already delivered up into this one and failed. So, and then we've just continued to fail on these higher ranges. That doesn't mean we won't keep heading up, but yeah, we've just been heading higher. Oh, 1 hour. We've shifted up, retraced, created relative equal highs, souped those. And now we had a little sell-off here. Yeah, nothing, don't want to get too zoomed in yet. So we'll hop on over to the Russell. Yeah, basically the same thing, except we have taken out November completely. So maybe there is SMT here. We'll check that out. So yeah, so there is SMT, but it's in weakness in the Russell. On the weekly, we do have some more fair value gaps being created that have been created. We could turn this into a weekly. And we have a daily embedded, nested into there, and we do have technically a shift here. So now we have relative equal lows here. So we're just doing an unbiased analysis right now anyways. So we did have an inversion there. That's been taken out. We can delete a lot of these indicators here, or these alerts. The daily, yeah, we actually have taken out that low. We've created relative equal lows, so it would make sense for us to sweep those. Um, Daily fair value gaps inside of all these weeklies, so these will be tough areas to get through, most likely, or they'll be inverted, strong areas to invert. But yeah, relative equal lows there. SMT. So if we zoom into the 4 hour, YM totally took out this high, but we both got that little displacement there. Both had relative equal highs that was created and then swept. So that doesn't mean we're for sure headed down, but I mean that looks very clean for at least these lows for a short. So that's pretty clean. I'm gonna set an alert there, set an alert there. So yeah, these would be my areas of interest here coming into the week. Um, we've created a 4-hour fair value gap here. 4-hour, a bearish one. So yeah, that's pretty clean. I bet we'd have some sort of SMT up here too for a short. We took out all this low resistance liquidity and then instantly manufactured that low. That looks really clean for us to at least come back and, you know, maybe retest this order block. Maybe we come and take out this displacement candle wick and bounce, manufacture that low again. So like possibly this could happen. We go like this and then come back up to there again and then up there, down there. So yeah, I'd look for some sort of short. Let's just look really quick, man. Whoa, we're way, okay. Give me, there. So we got this high. This was the high. We gotta zoom in some more. So this was the high here. Yeah, we did have a SMT there. Um, and then another one here. And then no bullish SMT yet. So yeah, I would just look for another SMT short. Could even happen today at the open. So, you know what? Actually, that could really totally happen because there's no real crazy news this week. So that's very common for the trade to happen there. Looks like there might even be SMT. Here, yeah, this low there. It makes sense we're bouncing here because YM. But we do have relative equal highs here. So I'd expect that to be taken. But this, oh, they were misaligned. Okay, they were misaligned. Okay, cool. So yeah, YM has already gotten some SMT there, created a shift, retracing back up. But yeah, I would expect Russell to actually make the higher high. So I'd look for SMT here into the open on Sunday maybe, and then frame the risk. Um, yeah, short Russell or YM, both would work. But Russell's got those really clean lows right, literally right here. So it makes more sense to short this if we can get an entry. Okay, cool idea there. Russell to lows and obvious lower for a nice short for a nice high time frame reversal back upside. Um, and we already have shifted versus Dow Jones didn't really shift too clearly here, you know. So I would have liked to see Russell create more of an SMT though on the intermediate term on this whole range. I mean, technically we have, because Russell's just being really weak, because we've taken out, you know, we're being held way lower on a discount So there was SMT here. They both took it out here. So let's see if something else happened here. Oh, right here. Okay. So with the NASDAQ, suddenly Russell gained some strength versus the NASDAQ. So the NASDAQ was a really nice short here. And then we got that little manipulation there. And the NASDAQ was super weak. So we need to take a look at these guys and then determine which is the best opportunity. I just don't like how Russell has taken out that low, and it has created SMT at the lows versus the Dow. If we go to the 4-hour, so the Dow has held this low, you know, and this is an old SMT area too. This was the area where the Dow SMT'd this low, and now Russell is coming and taking it out and holding the low. So this could still be a reversal area to the long side. So just got to be really careful there. Excuse me. All right. All right. Forgot I was live streaming. Yeah, this is the old SMT right here where Russell right here made the lower low and then we had a move here, but then Russell held up. So that's what we want to see here. We want to see the Dow actually come lower and Russell make and hold this low possibly, or hold this low. I mean, maybe it takes out these, but so maybe I will look for a short here, just because YM hasn't come down into a pool of liquidity. But at the same time, it's like if Russell's gonna be stronger here, let's look here real quick. This is the old SMT area. What happened here in NASDAQ? So this is where Russell made the lower low, and you can see Russell or NASDAQ was being way stronger, but then into that area, NASDAQ was, you know, ranging, making higher highs, but then suddenly came very deep back into the same area. So this was the area right here. Made a higher low. So there's the SMT there. Boom. Takes off. Comes lower. Creates a lower high. Takes out the low here. But everyone else did too. But then, yeah, okay. That's where things get kind of misaligned here. But anywho, it seems like I mean, we need to do analysis there first. Okay, we just need to jump to NASDAQ. So NASDAQ still very strong here. Month hasn't closed yet, but and there has been no, super big rebalance, except back down here. On the weekly, we did wick through it, but so far we actually are respecting that weekly bullish fair value gap very strongly. The candle bodies are closing above the CE. Um, so if there's a move down, it's going to be probably pretty quick. So I won't let it a weekly candle close there. But then yeah, once we get to the daily, it's very clear how bearish this looks. This very sharp looking top and then huge displacement lower, just confirming a displacement and then still confirming. We come up and tap this order block and then continue lower. So this is still here, but and we've sort of inverted this one. So I'm just going to mark that. But just kind of keep it less important looking. And is this a relative equal low? Yeah, there's a pool of liquidity down there. But I mean, look how obvious it's respecting the weekly here. We haven't created a daily shift back to the upside. 4 hour shifting here, shifting there, but then just instantly displaces lower, and then now we have inverted this daily on the 4. So this has been inverted. Looks pretty bearish, and we do have a pool of liquidity lower. Yeah. And we haven't really tapped into a low yet. So if we look at everything else, you know, ES totally took out this low. So okay, so we do have a bullish SMT then. So ES took out the low, and now we've shifted back up. ES took out this low. ES took out this low, wow. So there's some SMT there. So big SMT here. Would have liked to see a smaller time frame SMT to confirm this though. I'd look for like an intermediate one inside of this range. That would be cool. And so far there's been nothing. So, So yeah, we need to pop back up over here. So yeah, we have that. You know, we kind of got relative equal lows here, but they're not super clean. Yeah, I'm just not gonna mark it. They are relative equal lows though, but they're kind of respecting this weekly. So but we had some SMTs up here. We need to keep that in mind. So, all right. Cool. That's good enough on NASDAQ. ES. Oops. All right. So yeah, ES has rebalanced everything too, unlike NASDAQ. On the weekly, there's no like clear inefficiencies. We're kind of range bound now. There's no inefficiencies all the way up. So that kind of tells me we're losing steam up here. Oh, I guess we do have this one. So there is a weekly bullish fair value gap there, still holding up. But let's make that green. So yeah, there is a why did I do that? So there's a weekly here. That's pretty good, and it was very strongly respected. We can even leave it like that. Um, there is room for this wick to still be traded into. We haven't even come down into it. Doesn't mean we need to though. We've almost completely rebalanced this whole range on ES. What the? I'm gonna delete these. Alright, yeah, going to the daily. Yeah, just a very big leg down. We are, yeah, we are kind of respecting this daily fair value gap here. It's very similar to YM. Completely came down, tagged the CE of it. But then we're kind of inverting this area here, like NASDAQ is. Man. And then on the 4-hour, now we have inverted it. And this came back down, retested the CE of this wick, sort of. So, kind of tricky. Um, yeah, very, very tricky here. Just such a big range. It's what makes it hard to trade for day trading, for me at least. But yeah, that's basically it for me to really, in the higher time frames at least. So, this is kind of a relative equal high low area. Let's make that bigger. So yeah, really clean level here. It would make a lot of sense to come back up above that to get everyone to think, oh, we're breaking back out, and then it comes all the way back down or something. Yeah. So yeah. All right, now let's just look at the SMTs we have here. So we had the high put in here on YM, and this is where NASDAQ just went on a tear while YM just kept dumping. And then we finally got the dump, and now we're coming back up and rebalancing that whole range. And now there's been SMT up into there. So up into here, we have an SMT where, oh, I guess ES did make a high there, but that's where, this is where the short on NASDAQ came. Very obvious. So really nice short there. We even had an opportunity. Yeah. But the thing is, we never really came and took out like a clear target. It makes sense we're bouncing here, but there's just no obvious target besides, you know, there was an SMT here too on Russell. So yeah, SMT's here for the short side. We came back down, held the new week opening gap on ES. We held the new week opening gap on NASDAQ. Took out some liquidity on Russell, but we never tapped into it. We kind of manufactured that low. And we don't really have any bullish SMT here to confirm this as a low. If we zoom in further, maybe we do. Nope, we don't. So yeah, I'm still biased short. So I do think it's just kind of hard because Russell has the cleanest targets on the downside, but Nasdaq is just so clearly so much bigger of a mover here. But yeah, it would just be looking for the right SMT again. I mean, you can see Nasdaq fails here, weakness in Nasdaq, and strength in the Russell. So that's kind of what you'd want to see for a short in Nasdaq. We both came down, and we had even continued strength here in Russell as Nasdaq was down here. And then that kind of put in the bottom here. Everyone did. Russell is just off par. This huge leg down happened way earlier in Nasdaq, and then this high failure here. So that was a nice short in the Dow, or a soup short in Russell. So this would have been the better short, yeah. So you should have shorted the soup here on Russell, seeing that we had the SMT weakness in the Dow, and then boom, boom, boom. Could have taken profits here. Either one would have been a decent short, but Russell, yeah, when Russell kind of manipulates higher, it really does offer a big move down. So now that we've had that, it makes sense for for Nasdaq to come up higher. So yeah, I'll just be looking for this similar situation here where we get another SMT. So let's zoom in, see if there's any levels of interest here for a short. So Nasdaq has not taken this high, neither has ES. That's basically the high for the other guys. This is a higher high. Now ES is being weak. So so yeah, I just want to see these guys make highs and Nasdaq be weak, and this one be strong too. So this one be even stronger. Let's zoom back out again to see how that happened again compared to ES. So yeah, this high here. Yeah, we want to see. If we're gonna get short here, we want to see, yeah, Dow Jones kind of create those SMTs. showing the rotation and selling into those guys. So yeah, things are kind of back into alignment. That this area here was really tough with, the Dow Jones just chopping, grinding lower, you know. And it makes sense to short. Um, ES was a short the whole time, but the problem was Nasdaq just kept going higher on the higher time frame. So we needed that next lower low to form first. And then as soon as that happened, where what happened here? Let's see if anything happened. Nothing happened. Like as in like an SMT, like huge divergence thing. Hmm. Yeah, I'd still buy a short. I'd be looking short for shorts on basically anything, but we want to see the weakest one. We'd want to see to get short. I'd want to see the same SMT happen again, and then yeah, I'd get short Nasdaq, um, or Russell. It's just tricky because I actually don't know if I would short Russell. But yeah, ES. Mm, yeah, we want to see ES be stronger than Nasdaq, and then look for the sell. So it's almost like the same conditions have finally come back. Right into this period was very tricky because we kind of had the opposite situation happen. This whole range, honestly. So just looking for the same thing where Russell creates SMT or yes, that's yes, the Dow Jones come up higher. It is tricky though because there is an SMT here, and then that's why Nasdaq came all the way back up. Wait, what? Wait, what? Did I not see this? Oh, they were just misaligned. Okay. Okay. But yeah, obviously we've came all the way back up into a premium and on everyone. Russell has not. It's being suppressed. It's got clean areas of interest lower. So yeah, I'd also look for what happens here at these lows on Russell. So, all right. Now let's look at the flow. So this is just maybe Friday's flow. Yeah. Let's look at the last several days. So, all right, I need context here. All right. So this is just the last 7 days. So just basically this range here. Thursday, December. Yep. Okay. So yeah, we got this whole from here to here range of flow. We saw calls come up into this low here, and calls spike even further. And then as this bounce happened, we saw calls actually get sold. Volume was really low though. And then as price came back up here, that's where we saw a lot of volume in the calls, but calls were actually flat to almost trending down into here. And then yeah, calls kind of following price there. Whereas into this last little legs here, we had puts coming back up. And then yeah, we had that move down. Whereas the tide had uh calls following price basically, but then right into this bottom again, we saw calls go crazy. Um, and puts being sold. This leg down, puts were totally sold, and then we saw the spike in calls kind of confirming the move out after we saw the dumping in the puts. So we had the move up. Calls are going to come up, puts are going to go down into that move here, and then we grind up with calls suddenly selling off into here, and puts also being sold though. So tricky flow there. And then into this leg down, we started to get a call selling, and puts were coming up into the sell-off, and profits were taken, but they were still positive here with calls negative. So it almost seems like this is just going to probably continue lower. There were just so many calls being sold up here in the tide. Let me look at the last 3 days now instead of 7. It's too much to look at. So yeah, into these highs, puts really rose, and then puts dumped on the nets, with both negative into the lows here on the net, SPY net. Um, so it still seems bearish here, and then exact same thing on the tide. Tide is just way more bearish leaning. Um, yeah, I could see some movement though. That's what it looks like in the flow. It looks like it could start to come back up. But then as soon as we get the next little divergence there, that's where there'd be a very obvious sell. So it does seem like we'd want some leg down back, probably back into the new week opening gap at least. So looking for a short there makes sense. Now if we look at Qs, into the same range, should have been looking at SPY. But yeah, Qs last 3 days, calls completely getting dumped all the way up into here, getting obliterated. Most of the volume is in the calls, absolute carnage of calls, and price still grinded up into the end of the day, which is crazy. And then obvious we get the big dump. And calls did come up here very sharply, kind of after the fact though, and low volume. So the conviction on the move back up here is really low. It still makes sense for us to come lower. We do have these relative equal lows still here. We do have this little soup there, but those are relative equal lows there. Um, so we could probably retest this low or just at least soup that. So yeah, that looks bearish on the Qs. Holdings were very bearish. looking at, let's look at, uh, I guess we'll look at IWM. Let me just look at Dow Jones first, just to see if there's even anything significant in the last 3 days. Wow, there is something. So big put spike, but then it just came back. Really weird. Can't really trust that. So yeah, I'm gonna just go to IWM. So IWM flow, let's take a look here. If this is bearish, then this is probably going to be my trade. So last 3 days, we get this high puts spike into this area here, and then we get put profit taking up into here though, with calls coming up. So that doesn't make a lot of sense, especially the volume was really rising. So it didn't really make sense to do anything there. And then suddenly, we get the move down, puts come down, but calls also came down, and most of the volume is in the calls. So puts are still being sold though, and they're being sold more into the premium. Um, but then we got that little bounce. Puts got really dumped. Let's look. So yeah, into this chop right here, into the PM session. Puts got dumped significantly, and then calls and puts still grinded lower here. But if you look at the volume, there was not much happening. So we need to look at the last 7 days here. So yeah, into that massive move down. Obviously, oh yeah, we had the crazy bullish calls, bearish and bullish puts into this whole move down. And then then we finally we did get a negative looking, no, and then a very bullish looking flow again into this range. So very bullish flow. This whole area was very bullish. That's why it was very tricky. And then here we got into this bounce. This is where we got the, let's just do regular trading hours, just to keep it simpler. So yeah, into here, that's where we got we finally got some green calls. We also had puts rising, which makes sense because we got that dip back down. But calls rose again, puts were negative, calls rose again. And then all the way up into here, we had calls rising. Puts did rise a bit, but then they flipped into the calls again. And then into here is where we had continued call selling. So this is just a tricky one on the flow because it does seem like we could head lower, but at the same time we had bullish flow into this entire move down, which doesn't make any sense. Um, Extreme call volume. The call volume in here was just crazy. So it's just kind of weird. The put selling was bullish, but there was no volume behind it. But the thing was, the calls were rising this whole way down, and they started to go volume-wise parabolic into this last little leg down. So this tells me if there's any profit taking in the calls, they took it here into this range, and the volumes were really high. So maybe they're hedging into calls as they dump this. But the most significant thing I see is the crazy put selling here. But the problem is it just didn't make any sense. They dumped a bunch of calls here. So it's been all green volume the whole way. So let's just look at the green. Up. So it was green up into this down move. Green down into this chop. Green back up. And then green back up. And then green back up. And then green up. And then it's just moved down. Green down. Green down here. Which spot was that in? Since this moved down, green down. But the volume wasn't there. Now they're selling puts. Hmm. So yeah, I do think they're buying all this. It makes sense. I just think it's just too tricky on Russell right now. The chart looks good though. That's the thing. And the bullish thing that happened in here didn't make any sense, like according to price. So I think the play is still there to look for shorts, and then as soon as like a very obvious flow, signal like tons of like a red volume with something interesting in the premiums, that's when I'd probably look for big reversal in Russell. But as for the other guys, yeah, it's pretty clear, like still bearish. Um, we have respected the weekly fair value gaps. You know, we have bounced. So, what makes the most sense to me though? Because I'm still confused about what I want to do or what makes sense to me. And we don't need to trade, so that's obvious. So, just to me, the only thing that's obvious is we got relative equal lows on Russell. So look for a short setup. We've got SMTs at the highs, so it's still technically in play to look for a short, though Russell did make the low here, the SMT low, but I do want to see YM make that low. So I'm still looking short on YM, I'm still looking short on Russell, I'm still looking short on NASDAQ. NASDAQ made the SMT low, but I want to see if NASDAQ's really going to reverse. I think I'd actually want to see ES. Um, I'm just confused by the NASDAQ SMT, I think. Well, no, I'm not. Usually these don't play out. We had it, but we didn't have anything on the smaller time frame. So I think I'm going to ignore it. I think this still is an area of interest down here. Doesn't mean NASDAQ's not going to come. Doesn't mean NASDAQ has to come down here, but it just seems like we need an SMT, and everything's still bearish looking. I mean, we got this obvious turtle soup short, manufactured more lows here. So Russell just looks really clean by itself. So I'd just look for, yeah, an SMT. Look for an SMT to happen, short the Russell. That's just the most obvious play for me. Um, Same thing with NASDAQ, same thing with the Dow, but Russell's the only thing with really, really clean low there. And Dow Jones has been the weakest out of everything besides Russell. And and yeah, we already got a bounce. We already got a huge bounce. We rebalanced everything. So it's just uncharacteristic though that NASDAQ was weaker here, but technically there was no SMT again. You know, we all held this low. Everything held the low. So to me, that just says that we still need lower. Something needs lower. Something does. And Russell's the most obvious one. So yeah, I'm just gonna be looking for a short on Russell. The flow isn't as clean on Russell, so I think just depends on which pair is the weakest when we create SMT. So I'll just be looking for what happens here on the smaller time frame. We got relative equal highs here on Russell. We've already taken it out on Dow. So what I'd want to see is Russell come up and the Dow come lower and something like that. And then these guys have all taken it out. Everyone's taking it out but Russell. So you could theoretically, there's a lot of areas to short. So it really just depends. I think I'm not gonna trade Sunday. It's just I'm a little too confused. So I'm just gonna wait for the open tomorrow and figure it out. So yeah, that is the plan. Anything else I need to look at? I mean, we could look at gold. Gold and silver were really, really good, obvious trades. So let's just take a look real quick. I kind of already know what's been happening here. We've taken out the lows. We've started to get uh, relative strength here happening in gold versus silver. And up here was where we had the short, where gold took out both of these highs, and there's something tricky here. Oh, okay, yeah, silver manipulated. So we want to see, for shorts, we want to see silver be the manipulation. That's a lot more obvious when it does it like that. The short played out. We took out these lows. We have SMT now where um, silver is much lower than gold. And now we have another SMT here into these lows. Which is, let's see what's happening. I swear gold just moved right when I looked at it. So yeah, we had another SMT, boom, silver really gets crushed, manipulates these lows, and then as we get that little order block lower, that's the long, very obvious long on gold to this high at least. Boom, we both get there. Good along silver too. Um, and then we take it out, we come lower, and now we create a bearish look here on gold. So we come lower, but the bullishness is still in play, though we do get a move down again, and now we're creating more SMT, so looks like a long on gold, just short term, but higher time frame, I think I still like a short, just because it seems like we'd want to. I think I'm still liking the sweep of this big pool of liquidity range, you know, support resistance level thing. But we don't need it. I'd expect if this is going to come higher, you know, it doesn't need to. It could be a short here. But there's no SMT to write home about. We've kind of dropped back above that. Yeah, this could come all the way back up in here. Nothing really clean though for me right now, other than longs. So, and we don't get the added edge of the flow. So that's why when it's just not super obvious ranges, I just don't like to trade it. So this is definitely obvious though. I mean, silver is looking really shorty. So, but yeah, for now, nothing clean for me. All right, yeah, that's about it. I'm gonna go with this idea. Looking for a short on anything that sets up. Russell is just the most obvious levels, so we'll be watching that. But at the same time, we'll have to update the plans on Monday morning. So right now, nothing like in stone. And Monday we'll come up with a new plan when we sort out what we really think is going to happen and who's going to be the best short here. Um, Russell is just the most obvious looking chart wise. So everything is there for the short. It keeps manipulating these highs. It always ends up being a little delayed and then it just dumps. So I like this the most, and I'd want to see weakness in the Dow. I want to see weakness in the Dow if we're going to get short. Sweet. That's the plan.